Good evening, everybody. Let me turn it so I'm on camera here. Hello. How are you tonight? Get my phone up here to this. Make sure our volume is turned off. So, how is everybody tonight? I'm okay. Actually, in a pretty good mood. However, I want that so that it shows the sewing machine too. And me. There we are. Is that better? Um, Good evening, Nancy. Hi, Lori. How are you guys tonight? Nancy, how's Terry doing? I always have to ask. Make sure he's good. Hello, y'all. And she even spelled y'all right. My room is a wreck. I'm sorry. It just is what it is right now. I have got jelly roll here, jelly roll there. A couple of other projects that I'm getting started on for later in the year and trying to get things done. Hey, Tracy, Craft a Simple Life. How are you tonight? How are you feeling? Hello, Deborah. How are you? Just a little rash this time. That's good. That's good. I posted on my brain just went. Zzz. I posted on my community tab the other day that a friend of mine is going to have a hysterectomy on the 28th. She has claimed the Jelly Roll Quilt, so I want to have it done by the 16th anyway, by National Jelly Roll Day. Do you know where you can get wire hangers? I think you asked that the last time you were here, Alfonso. I would check with a dry cleaners probably. PT on the knee. That doesn't sound like fun. And when it rains, my knees hurt too. I get it. But anyway, so she has claimed the Jelly Roll quilt. She likes the fabrics that are in it, so I've got to get it completely done, not just the top by the 28th for her. So I'm working on getting that done. And then two things. Just sent Wayne, he came in the door, went right back out the door to the emergency room. He has a tooth that has been driving him crazy for a couple of weeks, and we've been trying to wait until the insurance comes through. And the insurance is good, but we don't have the cards yet. They say they mailed them on the 5th. We should have them by now, right? So he's going to the ER to see if he can get antibiotics for that because it's turning into a big mess now. That's the only place I know of anymore either is dry cleaners. They're not as common as they used to be, for sure. I had all wire hangers until, I don't know, probably early 2000s. And then I started switching over to plastic and I haven't seen a wire hanger in forever. The other thing that happened tonight, this is a PSA. It just happened right before I came online. I got a message from one of my daughters, and she's like, "Hey, I need your help." And I was like, "Okay, what you need?" She said, "I need to borrow some money until tomorrow." Well, how much do you need? I mean, it's my daughter, right? My stepdaughter, but my daughter. And she says, $100. And I'm like, "Okay, well, how do you want me to get it to you?" And she's like, "Oh, well, you can send it Venmo," which my daughter doesn't use. So I left there and went and made a phone call to her. And she said, "That's not me. Don't send any money to that person, blah, blah, blah." So if you get a message from a family member saying, "I need money," and especially with my stepdaughter, she would probably call Wayne before me. Um, or she would be like, "Can you bring it to me?" Because if she needed money that desperately, it would mean her vehicle isn't running, kids don't have food, and she's not that type. She is an ex Marine, the most responsible person you've ever met. So I was really shocked. Hi, Kelly. You have to go to Southern Illinois for a funeral and then to Banana Pudding Fest. Now that sounds like fun. Tracy, you came home from Europe with COVID? That stinks. That stinks. just now basically have my voice back to be able to talk after COVID. And yeah, that stuff's horrible. It's horrible. Banana pudding fest, though, I'm just like, yeah, that sounds good. Oh, yeah, you would say yay about rain. You guys have had fires up there. I'm not saying yay about rain. um, a few of you know that my yard has been a wreck. What do you want, dog? Oh, she's wanting to know why Wayne came in the house and then turned around and left. But my yard has been a wreck for what seems like forever. And I used to take care of it. And then I got sick. And then Wayne was taking care of it. And then he had his stroke. And it got away from us between that. So I called a guy the other day, and he came out this morning and did part of it, and it already looks 1,000 times better, and he's nowhere close to done. Alfonso, no, I don't think you're one of my daughters. You're not one of the people that I have to feed or take care of. I mean, my daughters, if it came down to it, you know, they would come out here to the house and raid my freezer and my canned goods before they would ask for money for a store. But yeah, that's funny. And yeah, Tracy, I hope you're getting over that COVID stuff. I ended up having to like take the nuclear option to mine. I took they gave me steroids and they gave me a mega inhaler. I have asthma anyway, but I also have and I haven't had to use it in forever, but I have a, what do they call that breathing treatment machine? Nebulizer. Thank you, thank you. My brain came up with it. Um, and so when I called the doctor back when I had COVID, I said, you know, maybe I should get you to give me some new supplies for my nebulizer. And instead of doing that, she gave me a inhaler that basically does the same thing the nebulizer does without having to take that whole machine. You know, fix the machine up and put meds in it and all that stuff. So I was like, yay. So 2 puffs of that is just like doing the albuterol nebulizer. And what I'm doing is I am sewing um, the last part of my jelly roll. And I wanted to get down here close to the end. The bank of heaven and the bank of glory land. Yes, there you go. So you're going to make Christmas trees. Um, could you do it with jewelry wire instead of hangers, Alfonso? I know that Amazon sells rolls of jewelry wire that are bendable with just a pair of pliers. Oh, so well, yeah, you should be over it by now or pretty close. I've still got the cough and a little bit of the voice issue, but not doing too bad, I don't think. And let's see, what else happened today? Good friend of mine, I've known him. Well, my son just turned 37, and I've known Donnie since not long after he was born, so 35, 36 years. Um, he messaged me today and got caught up. And then we were talking, and he's like, "What are you doing these days?" And I said, "Well, I'm doing YouTube." Um, and so he subscribed to me, and then apparently he's made it his personal mission to get me to 3,000 subscribers. Oh, okay. I'll be happy to look at it, Deborah. I think you're like the number one poster on my page. I don't mind. I like it. You always post cute ideas. The only person that I'm not thrilled to post things from is that chick who's always copyright about all her stuff. I can't even remember what her name is now. That's how much attention I pay to her outside of that. I mean, when it comes right down to it, it's hard to copyright an idea. I mean, I guess you can copyright your own patterns that you write, but it's hard to copyright an idea. Oh, yeah. Well, this is the first row of it, Kelly, and I sat here and was sewing on it earlier. But the guy who's doing my yard, it's funny, um, when I called him, I was expecting a really super high price. Yes, that's the one, Deborah. Because really and truly, there is nothing new. I mean, there is nothing new. Not in sewing, not in quilting. I mean, even like when they came out with the bionic gear bag, the one that you could unzip and it opens up to have all these pockets. Even that idea wasn't new. And this is why, right here, what's going on with my machine, there's two things. One is I like to always turn the little extra pieces that I put in. I like to turn those seams towards the little piece. And the first time that I did a Jelly Roll quilt, you guys will have a laugh at me. When you put in 40 or 42 of these strips, they're 1,600 inches long. And I sat with those strips and I literally unrolled all of it and made sure that everything was turned so there wouldn't be a twist in mine. That was the first one, and the second one I did. The third one I had seen, I want to say Debbie Shore, somebody do Valerie Nesbitt. I love British sewers for some reason. I had seen Valerie Nesbitt do a jelly roll race, and she said if you get down here and you have a knot or a turn, this is what you do. You unfold it, you cut it, and you unfold it, and you keep sewing. And I was like, really? Wow. Hey, Mom, how are you today? It's good to see you tonight. I'm just talking about crazy stuff that's happened in my day today. Or not necessarily crazy, but just things. And I wanted to be like at the end of this first row because there's a couple of things I wanted to show here. So I don't backspace at the end of the rows on the Jelly Roll quilt because they're going to get worked in. It's probably Mom. I don't think Kent's as into sewing as Mom is. He likes it. He's good at it. But one thing I like to do with jelly rolls, and you guys are going to laugh at me, I have a charm square here, and I'm going to cut it in half, just a 2.5-inch strip, because I have this weird thing about wanting to know where I started at once the quilt is done. So I'm going to cut that charm square in half, or I'll use just a random piece of fabric. Doesn't have to be a charm square. But when I get ready to turn this piece at the end and open it up, I am going to put the charm square across the end because when the quilt's all done, I want to be able to see where I started. It's a weird thing. I know it's weird. It's just me. And if my end's a little bit off here, I don't mind that either. And I always use a piece of fabric that's not in the like Jelly Roll collection. I pick something completely different. I pick something that kind of goes with the colors, but it doesn't have to be. I just finger pressed. That was the next thing I was getting ready to say, Deborah. Is that I'm now gonna. I just do it like I've seen Donna Jordan do it. Quite a few people. I just kind of pull it out and I press the rows all to the right as I'm doing this. But I want to keep track of this end. So I'm going to clip the end to my little bag that's sitting over here. Just however, you can set it under something. I set it under the edge of my cutting mat for another one. But no, I don't go through and heat up the iron and press it. You can. Well, I kind of have this idea that, maybe my top 10 tips for sewing a jelly roll. But this is just how I do it. And the other thing I wanted you guys to see, and I'm hoping that you can, let me turn this down just a little hair more. You guys see my fabric now? When you put these in, you're doing them randomly, like when you're sewing your first row together, where you're just joining strips. But I don't care how careful you are, you're going to have this. See how those two fabrics are overlapping each other? It happens. There's nothing you can do to stop it unless you use literally 40 different pieces of fabric. And I'm not that picky to go and do that. So it just makes what looks like blocks in your quilt when you're looking at it from far away. Piece in pieces. Wow. You're hand sewing? You and Sylvia. Are you as fast as Sylvia is? She was telling me yesterday she had 18 4-inch strips or 4-inch blocks still to go. I was like, oh, you'll be done by breakfast tomorrow. She's not on tonight because it's like midnight for her right now. But I'm just literally pushing it open as I go. And you can, if you want to, iron this. I'll iron it all when I'm done sewing it all together. But I'm not going to be super fussy or prissy about this because that's not me. Oh, you got called away just as you said hi. Well, hello. I think everybody greeted you, but they can say hi again if they want. I don't mind. Mom, are wire hangers common in Canada? Alfonso was asking about them when he first came in, and I had to tell him the only place I can think of is the dry cleaners. See, there's another place where the two colors overlap. And this was a 100-strip jelly roll, and it still ended up with some overlaps. So, but they weren't, 100 different strips. Let's see. And the other thing I did, yeah, dry cleaners is all I can think of too. The other thing that I did today was I ordered, well, the lawn is part of my birthday present, but I ordered the birthday present that I wanted. And when I was a kid, I used to gripe at my stepdad for buying my mom appliances for her birthday. But my dishwasher has now been broken for 2 months. And by golly, I'm tired of washing dishes by hand. Wayne's tired of washing dishes by hand too. It's not like he leaves it all to me. But I ordered a new dishwasher today, and it's supposed to be here and be installed on Thursday. Yeah, we only have one thrift store left out here, Deborah, and it's called Faith Farm, and ours basically only sells furniture. They have some other stuff inside, but it's like furniture. And then the rest of what they get, as far as clothes and things, they support a ministry for, I guess, homeless people, maybe poor people too. But so most of the household goods that they get, they actually donate to people. I have not seen vinyl records in thrift stores in a while because they're no longer considered a junk item. They're actually pretty collectible at this point. So if you're seeing vinyl records, you could probably make yourself a living and in buying vinyl records and reselling them on eBay if you were into that kind of thing. This goes fast once you have this first row done. Tell Laura Lynn you said hi. You can't see her in chats. Oh yeah. Well, that was the issue for me is we had to wait for the money to be available to do it because sounds like I'm just frivolously spending all this money, but we had we had to buy new house insurance because the company that we did have our homeowners insurance through pulled out of insuring mobile homes in Florida at all. So, and my house is a mobile home, even though it's considered real property. Yeah. You can't see Guess Who Nancy? That's Nancy Guess, Guess. She changed her name a while back because there was Nancy Guess and Nancy Gus in chats. So I guess she wanted to be able to be distinguished so we know which one we were talking to. And she said that she couldn't see you. Nancy, you can't see Mom and Pop Quilt Shop? Oh, I wonder. If you want to unblock somebody, Nancy, because it's possible to accidentally block someone, you have to go into your Google account and manage it under settings over there. Because I can't imagine that Mom would. No, that's not good. Oh, I use mine all the time, Deborah. When I can is probably the biggest time, like when I'm canning beans and stuff. For me, with the arthritis, it's easier to wash my glass jars in the dishwasher so that I know they're sterile, and then I pull them out and use them to can in. And this seems to be taking forever, but it's just because it's a super long strip. It's 1,600 inches right now. You don't have problems in others' chats, it's just in mine. Uh, that depends around here, Mom. Wayne's good about doing dishes. He doesn't always do them the same way I would. He likes to run the water and just put a little soap on things. And I prefer to have them soaked in a nice warm bath of hot water and a little dab of disinfectant, usually bleach or vinegar. Well, I don't think I have you guys blocked from each other. I don't think I have that capability. And I can see you both in the chat. You like doing dishes in the morning? I got, well, that's the other thing is I like the dishes done basically as soon as you get up from eating or cooking or whatever. And Wayne likes to leave them soaking overnight. I think that it's easier to wash them right after dinner because then nothing's dried on or anything. I could be wrong, but I'm old school. I had a food server's license for a lot of years, so I'm used to doing the whole three sink method and all that. Oh, I like that stuff too. Now, see where I like to use that, Kelly, is on the glass top, um, on my glass top stove. That is the best thing ever to get it clean, especially if like something's splattered. Yeah, I wash dishes as I go usually, and there's usually one or the other of us. Like with Wayne's new job, he's not getting home until later in the evening, so I wash mine. I cook my dinner earlier than when he gets home, and then he eats when he gets home. And then I try to go in there and at least put water in his dishes because I don't want to do two loads after dinner. But I wash the cooking dishes as I go, or as much as possible. Yeah, Deborah had PT today. Good for her. Now, Mom, did you have. No, it's tomorrow that you're having an ultrasound. Is that right? Tomorrow at 1:30. Okay, so about noon I'll put up some prayers that everything looks good. Um, the other thing is you kind of have inspired me. I've got an idea floating around in my head based on your peacock with the Dresden. I love Dresdens. Ah, so I'm thinking a turkey on a Dresden, not a peacock. That's kind of what I've got in my head. I don't know if I can find a turkey pattern to do it, but I think that would be a really cute wall hanging or table runner. My brain just went. It's doing that a lot here lately. I'm gonna blame it on. I'm gonna blame it on old age, because that birthday thing coming up. I'm like, yeah. Um, Alfonso, I always look for stuff like that on Amazon. If I've got a weird idea or something I've never seen before, I always look on Amazon and see what they have, who makes it, because like we got sheets that go over pages as magnification for my mom way back when, and we hunted forever. And a while back, I got thinking, I wonder if those are more common now. And I looked on Amazon and found like 4 places that were selling them in different sizes. The one we got for my mom was only like a 5x7 or somewhere close to that. But now they sell them, like up to the A4 size, like they use in the UK. Yeah. Yes, thank you, Deborah. I appreciate it. I'm always, well, because, 9/11, I'm always a little weird about my birthday now because it's like the day before. Um, Kind of casts a little bit of a shadow over it. And I have a girlfriend who was at ground zero that worked through the aftermath. She was a rookie cop at the time. She's retired now. And she's got a really well written piece that she put up for the group of people that we're both part of back when it was all happening. And I reread that every year. So this morning, after I reread it, I was like, there isn't a whole lot I can say or that I feel is appropriate to say after reading Jeannie's post. So, yeah. And that doesn't affect the people who are in the UK like it does people in the US, but it's something I think about. Aw. You have a great night, Alfonso. Thank you for coming by and visiting with us. Yeah, that I don't know that I don't want to celebrate at all, but yeah, it's definitely puts a damper on things. All right, so you guys watched me. I just like finger pressed that all to one side, and now I'm just going to line up my sides and start sewing down a 1/4 inch, and I'm not going to worry about untangling it or anything. And the only thing I did whenever I first started was the very first piece that I put in the first row. I cut down about halfway just so that all of my little squares that I put in here wouldn't end up lined up next to each other. Oh, that's bittersweet, Kelly. Well, if they're in the US, it might not be such a big deal if they're in other countries, although I think that that was a worldwide shock no matter what. And then I do this, it's not a requirement, but everywhere there's these little squares, I always tuck my little seams into the little square. And I do it that way because that's my preference. You're not going to have those seams matching up with anything. I just personally like them all to be going one direction. So if I tuck them all into the little square, then I don't have to fight with it. Ah, your nephew shares a birthday with me and with one of my cousins. I think Kyle is turning 30 tomorrow. Actually, I have several friends whose children were born on September 12th or 13th. And piece of trivia for anybody who cares, September the 12th is the 14th most common birthday, and September 14th is the first most common birthday, from what I hear. You what? That heart is hiding one word of your comment, Deborah. So I don't know what you said. Watched a video today about 9/11. Oh, and all the people that were on the documentary were from the UK. That makes sense. And I'm turning that one the other way because apparently I turned the first one on that square the other way. Now you can do this over your shoulder. Yes, that's probably why. I wasn't going to speculate on that, but I'm pretty sure that I was created on or close to New Year's Eve. My mom was only, well, she was young when she had me. She was underage. And the picture that, because back then in 1966, you got married if you got pregnant. And the picture that they used was from whatever formal event my parents had attended. I think it's the only picture I have of my parents together. It was published in the newspaper with their engagement announcement. April, September, and December. I don't know. I was always kind of afraid to count back and figure it out. But we lived in Oklahoma when I had my kids, and they were born in July and August. So, yeah, it must have been cold. Your daughter is September 24th. I think Lori's is the. What day is yours, Lori? The 30th or the 28th? But yeah, Mom, every time I watch your show, I end up being inspired by something. Maybe you shouldn't allow me to come to chat because I crib notes. Actually, I'm pretty lucky. I usually can find something to inspire me almost anywhere. And I really like I said, I like that bird you did. But I was trying to figure out a way to turn it into either FPP, which is also not one of my favorite things, or into just like if you ironed everything down and got your crease marks on it, could you sew that with a sewing machine? Now, did you do that on purpose, Deborah, so that your birthday and anniversary would be close together and it would be easier for him to remember? I have some friends who got married on New Year's Eve so that her husband couldn't forget. It was a second marriage for both of them, so that was important to them. So we went to their wedding one New Year's Eve, and then for like the next 4 or 5 years, we went to their anniversary party on New Year's Eve. I thought it was kind of smart of them. Had I thought of it, I might have done that too. Oh, poor guy. Does he have an unbirthday? Or like halfway through the year, did they give him another day? My first husband was born on December 30th. When he was little, his dad called him his little tax deduction. Until he got old enough to tell his dad that he wasn't overly fond of that comment. Because they got to claim him for the whole year and only had him for 2 days. He got gypped. Oh, that's a good idea, Mom. I'm in a bad habit now. You're younger than I am, and I'm still calling you Mom. I should call you Laura Lynn. Be done with it. It's not like I'm not used to double names. I'm from the South. Everybody's got two names. Billie Jean, Barbara Faye, Twana Kay. I didn't get a middle name. Thank goodness, because I'd have been called Melissa whatever all my life. My cousin got the two worst names, Missy Lee. I was like, Eve. So whenever her mama hollered for it, it's always Missy Lee, and I'm like, ew, that sounds like she's calling you names. And see, here's another. I didn't worry about it being tangled. I don't care. I'm just straightening it out as I go and sewing it together. And this goes, yeah, I like Gwenny. Your hubby is Billy. I had a Billy Ray. I had an uncle who was born a year or two after me, and that was his name was Billy Ray. He's gone now. There's a comic that talks about in the South. Whenever you mention somebody's gone, you have to stop and go, and then you go on with your conversation. I almost did that when I said that about my uncle. I don't know. Billy Ray Cyrus was cute when he was young. I'm not quite sure what I think about how he's aged, but his wife is stunning, and so is Miley for that matter. I saw her recently in a grown-up video where she wasn't trying to look like trash, and she's a really beautiful woman. Oh yeah, that's the other thing in the South, Deborah, is where I just wonked off my quarter-inch seam, so I'm going to go back and fix that. In the South, you can't assume that Bob is actually Robert or Bill is actually William. Yeah, you can't assume that down here. You know, Glenn might be Glenn, it's not longer version of something. Ken may not be Kenneth. I mean, Mama may have. I almost named my son Joey, but I named him Joseph because I couldn't imagine a 40-year-old guy named Joey. And I know two who are very successful. I wasn't looking to name my kids things that would make you go, what the hey? Exactly. That's pretty common in the South too, Lori, but you're not Southern. So I'm looking for the backdrop to that comment. Oh, of course. Yeah, my cousin Vicky, who I grew up with, her husband's a good bit older than us. He's like 20 years older than we are. And he calls her mother and she calls him dad. And I'm just like, why do you do that? But they also, because of how much older her husband is, they also adhere to some old timey rules that I don't see much in Kentucky anymore. But they have a rule that if one of them is alone in the house, there can't be a person of the opposite sex in the house with them unless it's a relative. And even then, it's specific, to like daughters and sons. Which I hadn't thought about that in years till somebody mentioned it the other day, and I was like, oh yeah, I do remember that. Good night, Laura Lynn. Pretty. He has a pretty name. There's the only other T I know of is T. Oh no, there's also Tia Mowry. I think that's her first name, Tia. Good night, Kelly. You have a great night. Thanks again for coming, Mom. I appreciate it. I appreciate all of you coming. But yeah, well, both of my kids are actually, they're not named after, but they have elements of my siblings' names and theirs. My brother's name is Stephen, so my oldest son has Stephen in his name. And then my sister is Michelle, so I have a Michael. I didn't have any girls. Or I didn't give birth to any girls. I have four, but I didn't get to name those four. They're from Wayne and his first wife. I claim them all. So did everybody hear my PSA at the beginning of the live tonight about Facebook Messenger? If you missed it, let me know and I will repeat it for you because it's important. Or maybe I should just repeat it anyway. Oh, that's funny, Deborah. I got a message tonight from one of our daughters, and she asked me if she could borrow some money, which is unusual, but I figured maybe she's, desperate and couldn't wait for dad to get home or whatever. And so I said, of course you can. And then I asked her, I said, well, how do you want me to get it to you? And she didn't mention his daddy over here in town or any of that, which normally she would. But she mentioned an app that I know that our daughter doesn't use. And Venmo. I don't use it either, but I've used PayPal with this daughter before. So when she suggested Venmo, I picked up the phone and called her and reported the person had blocked me. So I had to go in on, or have Wayne go in on his account and report it because they've apparently stolen her password. So if you haven't changed your password lately on your Facebook or your PayPal or YouTube, probably should. Did you do that on purpose, Deborah, so they'd have the same initials? We had friends who were on the "we'll have as many kids as God gives us" train way back in the day. And they had, last I knew, they had 5. And all 5 had the same initials. They all started with S. I think the middle initial was E, and then the last initial was S, obviously, because theirs was. I looked him up a while back. Apparently, he's now a youth pastor somewhere in Texas, I think. But I didn't go much further than that. I was just checking basically for signs of life. Anybody else do that on Facebook? Tia Marie and Tiffany Michelle. Yeah, those were pretty names. I think Michelle's a beautiful name. It's my sister's name. And I've answered to it half my life. I could do this faster. I'm going to do the second half of this with the serger. But I'm just sewing along, not trying to be in a hurry. When I get in a hurry is when I do things like run my finger up underneath the needle. And we don't want to do that again. That wasn't fun the first time. I don't want to repeat it. Pull my hillbilly accent out for you. What is your middle name? You forgot you have Facebook? The heart's hiding your middle name if you told me, Deborah. Sorry. Deborah May. Oh, well, I got told that since my parents didn't give me a middle name, I was allowed to pick anything I wanted. And I like the name Grace, so that's what I would like to have. But I'm almost afraid to put it in my name because I'm not graceful. And I'm afraid if I added Grace to my name that I would end up being an absolute klutz instead of just a little klutzy. You know what I mean? Checking my bobbin to make sure I still got plenty. I'm not even quarter of the way down on the bobbin. This is true. Not being on social media a lot. As a matter of fact, the group that my friend, the New York City cop, is in, actually sent me out a message a while back and was like, "Are you alive?" I said, "I think so." So I had to go check in and let him know that I was still around. We've been together so long now as a group that we've watched each other's kids grow up, each other's grandkids. I probably know some of those people better than I know relatives. Yeah. And I didn't give numbers tonight. I know Sylvia's at 869 and Wayne is at 756. He hasn't posted anything in a while, so his has gone down too. And I am fairly close to 3,000, which I'm like, yay, and stunned about. Oh, but I got a really cool email today. I have had 1.5 million views on my channel now, which is just mind-blowing to me. 1 million blew me away. That was only like 3 months back. But 1.5 million, I'm like, really? That many people look at the crazy stuff I put up? Trying to decide where to go for vacation. Well, that depends on where you live and what you like to do when you're on vacation. I imagine you're probably not looking for a ski trip since you've had both knees replaced now. It's mind blowing is what it is. Heck, the subscribers are mind blowing. I figured I might have 100 people, maybe 10 that would want to listen to me ramble here and there. But the Appalachian Memories, when I do those, they get tons of views. I just haven't put one out lately because I've been like, well, what do I talk about that doesn't. I'm trying not to talk about anybody who's still alive or, tell anybody's secrets. I mean, I'll talk about myself. I don't care. But when I'm talking about family, you want to be a little cautious, especially if it's people who are alive. Endeavor, it really does depend. You want to go where it's warmer than here? Well, I know you're in Illinois. So, Florida, maybe? I don't know. I'd probably go to like Galveston or Houston or something from where you're at. But I'm partial to Texas boys. I like the way they say howdy, ma'am. We lived in Houston for about 4 months many years ago, and that was the one thing I remembered. It was always howdy, ma'am. So every Texas man is gorgeous just because he's got that Texas accent. And if he tips his hat, I have to answer this one. Sorry, guys. Hello? Did you call me on purpose? I take it he did not. He's at the emergency room, so I have to answer the phone. I didn't know if they needed me to come in there and get him or what. He's at the emergency room because of dental stuff, not because of anything that happened to him as an accident. But I think he had the phone in his pocket and accidentally called me just now. Savannah might be nice. The difference, in my opinion, between Savannah and Texas is probably humidity. I think Savannah's more humid, isn't it? And I don't know how humid Illinois is. If I were going to go on vacation someplace warm, I would go to Texas because I know what it's like in Florida. And this is like walking, especially if you're not from here, coming to Florida for vacation is like walking into a wall of water. After we lived in Houston, when I came back to Florida, that's the first thing I thought was, oh my goodness. Back when I used to wear makeup all the time, the battle was always trying to keep your makeup from sliding off your face because it was so hot and wet. And I tried that Bare Mineral stuff they came out with, and it just felt like wearing cake batter. Because you put it on, you go outside, and all the humidity would smack you upside the face, and you'd just be like, ugh. It would just slide. Yeah, they're harder to get in Florida or in the United States than they are in some countries, I think. Passports are. Is it still in the United States? Is it still the post office that does them? I don't know if that changed after 9/11 or any of that stuff. You had to take your own picture into them, and it had to be a specific size. And back when I was getting mine, you had to have a black and white photo that was 2.5 by 3.5 or 3.5 by 5 or something. The only place that made those was Walgreens, and they charged, it was expensive to get the picture made. And then you had to go into the post office, and they gave you an appointment, and it was just, they made it harder than it had to be. It was harder than getting a driver's license. Post offices still do them? Okay. I wasn't sure. That was just my thought process. I guess he didn't call me on purpose. He texted me about our ER copay, and I'm like, pay it. I mean, it's cheaper to pay the ER copay than it is to end up in the hospital for weeks on end or whatever. I know you've probably all made a jelly roll at some point or another, so you're probably going, well, you retired from work as a Canadian passport officer. That makes sense. I don't even know. I remember hearing, like, as I was growing up, that there were all these lists that people were on. I grew up in Appalachia. Conspiracy theories abound. So it may have all but not been true. I haven't gone back and researched it. But I was always hearing that there were lists of people who weren't allowed to go out of the United States or come into the United States, that kind of stuff. Nowadays I just read the conspiracies that, people put out on Facebook, and I just roll my eyes. And if it looks like something that might be legit, then I'll go look it up on real news sources. Yeah, I think it took 6 weeks for me to get mine when I got my passport. I haven't renewed it in years because I've left the country to go to the Bahamas, and then I left once to go to Canada, but I was in Canada for about a minute. And I was planning on taking a cruise back when I got my passport, and that didn't happen. I think that was around the time my son was diagnosed with diabetes, so all the money that would have gone to that went into medical care. Now, when Jenny Doan does this, I've watched her do strip sewing like this. She does this thing where she grabs it and kind of leans back in her chair, and it just all works so perfectly. And I always end up with things wandering around when I try to do that. So I got to take my hat off to Jenny Doan. She's got more coordination for that than I do. Oh, 100K for your knee. Thank God for insurance. That was when I was in the hospital for sepsis. I was in ICU for 10 days and 5 more days in a regular room. And I think my part of it ended up being about 9,000. And the hospital, because I knew the surgeon really well, basically wrote most of it off for me. I paid a total of about $900. Thank God, because I don't know where we'd come up with $9,000. But it was quite high. Thank goodness for good insurance at the time. My husband was working for UPS, and I tell you what, if you ever have to find a job just for insurance, UPS has a Cadillac one. Their union is really strong, so they keep the insurance. It wasn't very expensive. Co-pays were almost non-existent. Yeah, we have do not fly lists here, but you can be put on them for way less. I mean, for reasons that you don't even know. Like if somebody decides that you're a threat, even though you've never done anything, they can put you on a do not fly list. Reader's Digest had a big article about that. And if you have the same name as a known terrorist, then it can happen too. I've known some people that did happen too. And then my son has the same name as a famous guitarist. So whenever he goes in to do anything, they're always looking for that guitarist instead of my kid. I've actually had doctor's offices refuse Blue Cross in the last couple of years. What are you doing here? Did you break? Trying to figure out where that thread came from. That fabric is shredding. Ah, so much for my Amazon fabric, huh? That one is definitely shredding. Can you guys see that? Yeah. I'm all for protect us, but there's got to be some kind of do not fly lists in the United States. You don't necessarily know that you're on them. And I think if they put you on a do not fly list, they should tell you, right? I'm just trying to get down to the end of this road here. Now, Lori, have you put in links yet for you and Sylvia? Let's see, Mom and Pop. Or do you want me to do that? I can. You forgot. I get it. I can put them in. I want to finish to this end of this road just so I can show it. I'm almost there. And then I'm probably going to call it quits after that because I want to call my husband back and see if he was calling me for a reason or what. He may have been calling me to find out where he could pay the ER copay from. Since I've been moving money around on him the last few days. I think it's Mom and Pop. Oh, and Kelly with an E. Kelley! Exclamation point, Kelly. Tracy W. Have you decided yet if you're coming back to YouTube or not? I know you were waiting until you were completely healed, and I don't know if you are yet or not. Now, see, this one doesn't have that little fold in it. It's straight. But when I get down here to the bottom, I'm still going to cut it before I get right to the end, just so I can have a straight cut. And you can take it off your machine and use your rotary cutter any way you want to do it. I just cut it with a pair of scissors. As long as my hands aren't hurting. If my hands are hurting, I might take it off and do it with the rotary cutter, because I don't want to accidentally cut myself. You're undecided still? Okay, it's Kelly with Kelley. All right, so there's my quilt, or my second round. And I think I end up doing 4 to get it to the right size for a throw. And I'm just going to do the same thing. I'll put one end together with the other end and start sewing down that 1/4 inch seam. And the next time you see me, Thursday may be a pre-record, because that's when they're supposed to put my dishwasher in. Depends on what time they tell me. But the next time you see me, this should be hanging up on the design wall so I can finish the next one. And I'm going to move my serger over here, and I'll record that. It won't be on a live, but I do have to get that done. So you may see both parts of it depending on how fast me and my serger get started. And I'm not putting Colleen's link in. She's taking a bit of a break from YouTube right this minute. So I'm not sending anybody over there because she's not publishing anything new right now. And just giving her the room to do what she wants to do. She may still show up on collaborations and stuff or lives, but no pressure. Not putting any pressure on my girl. She got enough stuff to deal with without this. If you're the praying type, you might say a prayer for her dad. He's having some medical tests done and stuff, so I don't know if it's anything serious, but he's having some tests done, and so is Tim. So if you guys pray or think good thoughts or light candles, you don't stink at links. If you put in exclamation point commands, Lori, Nightbot will pop you up a link that you or anybody else in the chat can click on, and it'll give you a list of the commands for my channel. And then you don't have to try to guess what did I put in there for Mom and Pop or Kelly or whatever. Nice little feature that Nightbot has. And I'm just finger pressing this apart right now. I'm not going to continue sewing on it. I'm just going to put the 2 pieces under the needle so that the next row is ready to start sewing when I get ready to come back in here later on. Now, if you click on that link, it'll show you all of them. I think I have several pages worth. And that'll show you who's in there and who's not. I've added and removed links as time goes on. I may need to update yours, Lori. There you go. I think Sylvia, Colleen, and I have similar links or similar names for like each other and stuff. We didn't do it on purpose. It was just what made sense to each of us as we were working. Okay, and so as you can see up here at this end, where I put my little extra piece in, I will know now that that's the first row on this. And I'm going to drop it all on the floor again, pull up my end, and put the two pieces together. And then I'm going to start right there at that edge, and I'll just sew a 1/4 inch down through there. So let me get that secured underneath my needle, just so it'll be ready. And it goes to half the length every time you sew a row. You can put it on the counter, you can leave it on the floor, you can throw it over your shoulder, whatever works for you. I just happen to like, having it on the floor and then just pulling it up. But that's only if I'm not moving my chair around a whole lot. But I am done sewing for the night, and I'm going to check on my husband. But, oh, thank you, Deborah. I appreciate that. I did put the link under Thursday's live, last Thursday's live, for where I bought it off of Amazon. And my jelly roll had 100 strips in it. So I just divided it up into 2 sets of 40 and 1 set of 20. And the 20 I'm cutting up to make the 2.5 inch squares to go in there. So, but I want to say thank you to Lori for moderating for us tonight. I appreciate that. And I want to say thank you to all of you for being here. And I appreciate that. I appreciate a like if you give it to me. If you're not subscribed, please do. You can't talk in this chat unless you're subscribed for 20 minutes or longer. So, and that's to protect people. So hopefully we don't get trolls in here. We've got our fingers crossed that maybe we're going to stay troll free for the next 3 seconds of the chat. But I will see you guys on Thursday, probably live. It may be short because of what time they're going to install it. But I'm going to try to get my mess cleaned up between now and then because it looks like a wreck in here right now. I love you guys. Have a great week and take care of yourselves. Bye for now.